Hello, guys. You want to come over to my place tonight?
Hell yeah, I want to come over to your place tonight.
Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday.
What's this day? You ever do this one? You're too young for that.
I'm not too young, but I'm too cool for it, you know?
So you're not too cool for anything.
Oh, I need to mute our background. Hold on. Okay. If you're live with us, say hi in the chat. Let us know you're here. We love interacting with you guys. We're going to get started with Vancouver versus Seattle in just a second. Did you have any updates for the folks?
I'm sure I'll think of stuff.
Okay.
Yep. Happy Labor Day. Hope you had a good, safe Labor Day weekend.
Yes.
And unofficial end to summer, right?
So they say.
You don't buy into that?
No, I do. I think it's really weird that as a society we picture that summer starts kind of at like Memorial Day, I guess, but the official season doesn't start until like June 21st.
Mm-hmm.
And then like fall actually doesn't start until September 21st. So it's weird like why we wouldn't just logically be like, oh, this is the end of fall.
You're a deep thinker, aren't you?
Wouldn't you love to know what goes on in my brain? We talked last week about how we're feeling fall, and we started to see some trees changing colors in this past week.
Yes, we did.
What else happened? Oh, closed an amazing deal.
Yeah.
Some awesome clients from...
Welcome a new awesome set of folks from Los Angeles area.
Yes, and that's a multi-gen move. Technically 3 generations. The parents, the adult children, and their children are all moving.
Okay. Hashtag multi-gen.
Yes, and while we were over there at their place doing the key handoff, we actually filmed some footage for our other video, the second video we're doing this week, which is about Prune Hill. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you subscribe, make sure you turn on notifications. If you have any questions about real estate at all, feel free to text me. I'm assuming everyone knows who we are, but I'm Hal Byrd. I'm a licensed broker and realtor here in Southwest Washington, Washington State, Clark County, USA. And
nobody knows who I am, but I'm Jarrett. I'm the other half of Hal Byrd, and we live our life. We enjoy life. We, regular people, business owners, thrill seekers, inseparable.
Yes, we are inseparable.
And we put this platform together, just trying to serve as a resource for people considering a move to the Pacific Northwest, specifically Southwest Washington, Vancouver, and the 5 boroughs, as I'm calling them these days. Mm-hmm. Vancouver, Camas, Washougal, Battleground, Ridgefield, or the Portland metro area, because Vancouver is still considered, I don't know, technically or colloquially, a suburb of Portland. Is that right? The biggest suburb of Portland.
Yes, and we have a friend who said that technically Vancouver is also considered moved from urban to suburban, but it certainly doesn't feel like it. And I was actually thinking about this morning, that probably one of the reasons why so many people like Vancouver is because the suburbs across America are more similar than like the big cities. Like a suburb of Chicago is going to be more like a suburb of Portland than Chicago and Portland are going to be alike. Does that make sense?
No.
Like the suburbs are more similar across the country than the actual big cities.
Okay.
So I'm saying that probably when people move here probably feels familiar and that's something they like. Mm-hmm. Which is probably one of the reasons why so many people like Vancouver, because it feels familiar while also being slightly different or improving on some things that they don't like the climate where they're at, or the housing prices, or job opportunities.
Right, and it's not for everybody. So I know a lot of times Hal and I talk about, well, are we coming across like too salesy? And no, we're sharing our guys' honest feeling and perspective since relocating here. And again, it's not for everyone, and part of us, our selfish side, is like a lot of natives here who are like, don't move, we don't want it to lose a lot of the charm and positive aspects of it. But again, we were looking for resources when we were thinking about moving, and that's kind of the basis of this channel. So I'm not trying to sell anybody on it. We're just kind of share our perspective, our life, And then for those of you who are considering, give you some information you may not find elsewhere on the internet.
Yeah, so if you have any questions about relocating, feel free to text me. The number is right there. You can also call if that's easier for you. I prefer not email, but if you must, you can email me. All my contact information's in the description below. So let's talk about a couple things. So we have a couple things prepared for you guys. Okay, we've been going on and on. Can you hear us now? Let's start there. As we said last time, low tech, high check.
Oh my God.
Okay, I just visited Vancouver 2 weeks ago for the first time, seeing my daughter for the first time in 2 years. I love the area, so beautiful and no humidity. Yes, Sally.
Sophia, Andrew, thank you for the feedback. Let us know if you can hear us now, or are we still talking to ourselves?
I'm gonna have to go back to the other screen and then make sure that the audio was added. So we have. I had muted the mic without realizing it.
So is this camera plugged in?
This doesn't need to be here.
Yes, it is. So why do you have the camera plugged in?
Because I'm using it as a mic.
Oh.
Okay, let me know if you can hear us now. Drop a 1 in the chat. which is the fun thing about going live. So it's like on one hand, it's really cool to be interact with you guys. And on the other hand, when we pre-record our videos and edit them and put all our little funny things in, we can check stuff like that. I'm glad I decided to check the comments. So can you hear us now? Just confirm. They probably all left.
Shake your head, yes or no.
Well, I can see the audio input here, so we should be fine.
Everybody's going now.
Andrew says all good now.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Let me make sure that I can see the comments while we're going over this stuff. Whoops. Exiting.
You did all that talking for naught?
For naught. That's correct. Okay, so I'm gonna make this over here. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, we should be able to see the comments now, or at least when new ones come in.
Oh boy.
Okay, so from the top, we've been talking about Clark County's population growth, and kind of we're going to compare that a little bit to Seattle, and that'll segue into our little head-to-head versus. So the population grew by 13,600 people, which was
second largest in the state. And for those of you guys who are familiar, Vancouver is the fourth largest city in the state of Washington, behind Seattle, Tacoma, Spokane. But we're gaining ground, obviously, on number 3, Spokane.
Yes. Well, I also know that if Vancouver was to incorporate all of the unincorporated areas, we would be the second largest city.
That's very interesting.
So when you think about, which is funny because when you live here and you think about how, like when you go outside of the Vancouver city limit borders, you don't feel like you're instantly in another city. Like say you leave the Vancouver borders, like you're on Andreessen and you go north and you go past the mall, you don't look at the one side of like where Minnehaha is and be like, oh, this is an unincorporated area.
Right, no you don't.
So the unincorporated areas very much feel like they're part of the city of Vancouver.
Right.
But it still feels suburban, more so than Tacoma.
Yeah, no, definitely. Tacoma reminded me of Pittsburgh. Very industrial. I won't say dirty, but dirty. But yeah, more, traditional city. Mm-hmm. Vancouver doesn't. Vancouver's like a small rural town. Like I think of some of the quaintest towns I've been through in my travels.
Yeah, it's big but quaint.
Yeah.
So.
Which is one of the reasons why so many people are moving, to this area. Yeah. One of the reasons.
So I guess we'll recap some of the stuff we talked about. So we were talking about Ridgefield, the fact that it was the fastest growing municipality in the state at 18.3%. And I was saying nobody who lives here would find that as a surprise because there is so much new development out there.
Right.
And to give you a perspective, a USDA loan is a loan that you can get 0% down, and it's intended for people who live in farming areas or rural areas to be able to own land without some of the hurdles that traditional lending has in place, like having a large down payment. Not that you necessarily need to have 20%. Most people can buy a house with 3 to 5% down. And I've had clients who put nothing down. So multiple clients actually who've put nothing down. But Ridgefield is one, even though it's one of those fastest growing areas, was still small enough to be eligible for USDA loans, which is kind of cool. So if you're not a veteran and you're interested in getting 0 down, USDA is one of the ways that you can do that out in Ridgefield. So we were talking about that. What else did we come down to? And then we were talking about Green Mountain, or we were talking about where's new construction in Clark County. Mm-hmm. So you've got Ridgefield, Battleground, Orchards, and Camas are the main areas for new construction. And you can find some new pockets, or some small pockets of new construction in Vancouver.
Right.
And then we were talking about Green Mountain as an example.
And we're talking about all of this because a lot of your clients, understandably, they want a new construction. They want a brand new home.
Yes. I would say way more clients want move-in ready, updated, beautiful home rather than let me buy a 1950s or 70s home that still has linoleum floors and wood paneling and I'll update it.
Right. Now,
most of my clients don't want that.
Now, coming from Philadelphia, right, where I'm used to 100-year-old homes. Matter of fact, the last home I lived in was built in 1865, I found out. So for me, I personally relish the challenge of finding an old home, good bones as they say, mm-hmm. and doing the renovation, getting it the way the way I want it, you know. And there's always going to be some limitations on floor plans and stuff like that. But again, if you love new construction, you know, there's opportunities for that. If you like taking something like you said, a 1950s home, and making it and making it modern, there's a lot of opportunities for that as well.
And are you consulting on any renovation projects?
Always consulting, and if that's something that you're interested in, you know, let Hal know, and we can talk about it.
Okay. I wanted to ask before I freely offered your services, but you already help a lot of our clients, even if it's just
even if it's just a friendly advice or whatever.
I can't tell you how many times my clients text me or email me and they're like, hey, what was that thing that Jared was suggesting?
Most recently, one of your clients got an unbelievable house.
Yes, great house.
With a 3-car garage, which is like, if you're a garage guy, you can appreciate that. But I told them about a side, you know how everyone knows garage door openers typically run down the middle of the ceiling, right, the track in the unit. Well, there's a company called Chamberlain, and then it makes LiftMaster, and then Genie also makes one that now mounts on the wall right next to the roller for the door. So you free up all of that ceiling space. So one of the things, and it's even more secure than from a safety standpoint and breaking in. So yeah.
And you can get like Bluetooth and smart ones now.
Yeah, come a long way. So I'm always happy to help and share stuff that I'm into, whether it's rain chains or whatever. That a lot of people don't know about rain chains. If you know about rain chains, put in the comments.
Should I show them what they are real quick?
Yeah, if you got the capability.
I've got the capability now that they can hear us.
Love rain chains. And we love more rain too.
Let's go to images. So a rain chain, look at that, that's so cool. Did you see the pine cone? I love that. So instead of having a downspout, basically you can install these chains that go down, and the water properties make it
it's called surface tension. So if you've ever seen water, like let's say I drank this coffee and I spilled it, it'll typically like run under my chin a little bit before it falls off. So same physics for a rain chain. So it's really cool to see the water kind of going down the surface of a chain. And I like it because you can route it either into a pan like you have there pictured, or a lot of people just run it into the ground. Or
making me feel some type of way.
Oh my gosh. You might need to see that. Those are copper. Or a lot of people run them into rain collection systems, so they can keep rain for watering plants or for purification. Yeah. So there's a lot of really, that's kind of like that next level of homes. Once I discovered those, I was like, oh yeah, I need those.
So yeah, we talked new construction. So when we're talking about the city of Vancouver growing, you've heard us probably, if you watch our videos, reference this stat that Vancouver has been growing by 4,000 to 5,000 people per year.
Say that again, because that's not insignificant.
So just the city of Vancouver, so not the whole county, not Camas, Washougal, Ridgefield, Battleground, unincorporated areas. The city of Vancouver has been growing by 4,900 people. So Vancouver came in second in per person growth. And the thing that's interesting about this is that Seattle was the only city that grew by more people, not in percentage, but by number. And they only grew by 8,400 people. So when you think about the difference in population that...
What, can we talk about the difference in population? Because we're going to
I think I have it up here. So if you go to overview, so this is best places. You've probably seen me use this on some videos too. You can see all the things I'm getting retargeted with, which is cashmere right now. So Vancouver, lots of cashmere.
I've never met somebody who lives in the rainforest who likes cashmere as much as you.
Well. I don't know what to say about that. Population here, 186,000. Population there, 770,000. So the fact that we were growing by 4,900 and Seattle grew by 8,400, they're not even double. Like they have, what is that, 4 times the population?
Yeah, I was going to say, if I'm rounding up, so 200,000 people for Vancouver, 800,000 for Seattle. They're 4 times the size of us.
Right. And that probably also has to do with the fact that people are leaving Seattle. And I guess that's a good segue into why they're leaving Seattle.
Right. Now, just as an aside, one of the shows that Hal and I enjoy binging on is Grey's Anatomy. And obviously those of you guys know Grey's takes place in Seattle, Washington. And one of the things that I'm always commenting on, because they'll do the B-roll and you'll see scenes of the city of Seattle. They always, the Space Needles is in like every other shot, but you see the size of that city, the skyscrapers, the high rises, and I'm like in my head,
huge businesses and corporations there.
Huge, right? So I mean, is it considered a they classify cities like tiers?
Oh, I have no idea.
Remember we were talking about NBA
No, but
teams
I wouldn't know what
like
Seattle would be.
Okay, well, Seattle's like Portland, right?
No, I would say Seattle's bigger than Portland.
Okay. So I guess all I'm saying, as an aside, I'm like, man, Seattle is so much more of a major city than we are.
Yeah.
But from a growth standpoint, it's interesting because obviously Seattle's not growing.
Right, because people are fleeing Seattle.
Right. So I guess as a business-minded person,
kind
I'm
of
always
like they're fleeing the Bay Area.
The Bay Area. Right. And this is a prime destination for a lot of people from Seattle. Shout out to Steve and Grace, some of our friends, and a lot of people who reach out to you who are also looking to move from Seattle, King County, down here.
I had a client close last month that was from Seattle.
Yeah.
And if I'm very vague about a lot of my clients' information for their privacy. So if you're ever wondering why, that's why. I just want to respect their privacy. So I'm very tight-lipped about their personal information. I also want to say, if you're looking at this screen and you're looking at this average home price, this is very incorrect, like extremely incorrect.
So what will be more relevant?
Well, like this number here, 317, is probably more than 2 years outdated.
Because the average home price now is like $475, correct?
Yeah, right around there.
And then what is Seattle?
Seattle is 8. It's interesting because then you go over here to the actual housing thing. It's like 850. This is more accurate. This is still low.
Yeah.
Like if I pulled the stats from last month, it'd probably be like 470 in Vancouver. That being said, I also had clients close last week. Was it last week? 2 weeks ago? And they closed at 370 on a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, probably on 8,000 square foot lot in Salmon Creek.
Oh, yeah, the corner.
Yeah, the corner house. So even though the median or average might be up in the mid to high 4s, you can definitely find stuff under 400 if that's where your budget is at. And for them, I mean, they have a humongous backyard. Yeah. Huge backyard, and they have a lot of animals, so that's one of the things that they wanted. So it's not like you're going to be compromising and you're going to be in a townhouse. Now, the compromise they did make was that house was older and less updated, but the bones were really great because it had a new flooring, new windows, new roof. They had replaced at some point the wood siding. The house was built in '54 to cement board. So like all of the bones were good, and I told them, I'm like, look, if you paint that house white, you could turn around and list it next year. And their house appraised like $40,000 over what they were under contract with. So, shout out to me for getting them a great price.
So people should come to you then.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've had multiple clients close with equity because the appraisal was so much higher than what they were under contract at.
That's the way to buy a house, right?
Yeah, it is, especially in this market. And I think, who closes with equity in a seller's market?
Not very. It's almost unheard of. But again, this is telling. So Seattle, Washington, our big brother to the north, major city in Washington, is more than double the price. So one of the reasons, between the congestion, between some of the other things going on in Seattle and King County, is the reason people are looking south to Vancouver and Clark County to move. Yeah,
you definitely get more for your money. We have a higher rate of home ownership just slightly, where I think this number is also not that accurate. I think it's 52% in Vancouver if you look at other stats, and 42%. But we'll just go with what they have here. So 7% higher in terms of home ownership.
And there was we were also intrigued by the difference in rent, correct?
Yes. So if we go down,
I'm not skipping ahead or anything, am I?
No. We're just chatting about the differences. So average rent in Vancouver was $19.25 26. I think that's a little on the high side. I think it's probably closer to 1800, maybe slightly below that. But it depends, because if you're looking at a house, the entry level for a house is probably going to be around $2,000.
Yeah.
For renting a single family detached home. Apartment wise, it's a little different.
Right.
But these numbers are pretty accurate for apartments. Like a studio apartment, what you could probably do for 1,000 to 12. A 1-bedroom, probably you're looking at 13 to 15. 2-bedroom, you're looking at 15 to 18. And I would say all the luxury apartments that are down in the waterfront are probably starting apartment wise in like the high teens, like 1,800.
Right.
You can get a water view for $2,000. You can't do that in LA.
No, you can't.
We got a question that came through. Any rural cities just outside of Vancouver that you'd recommend? I'm looking for 2+ acres.
For sure, yeah.
Yes. Probably, I would say Washougal would be the place that I would look.
Yes. That's we like the east side of town because it's kind of because geographically it's less room for expansion, right? And
because give context to that, there's no sprawl that can happen east of Washougal really, because you're going into the National Scenic Area, the Columbia River Gorge. So it's almost like there's a finite border where you can't really develop past.
Right, exactly right. And there's some downsides to that from a egress situation and an emergency. We can talk about that later. We're kind of like a little prep minded, so we considered that. But overall, Washougal is an area. Camas too, like northeastern Camas. You can find 2 acres plus.
Battlegrounds.
Hawkinson,
Brush Prairie.
Yeah. So that's going like northwest.
Yeah.
Of Vancouver.
Yeah, Ridgefield you might be able to. It might cost you more money in Ridgefield than it would in Washougal. But Joe, let me know. Do you want a house or do you want raw land? What I think is a great play if you're looking to build at some point is to buy a house that has the land that you want, that already has a manufactured home on it, because it will already have electric and a sewer system. Maybe it has a well, septic, all the things, or like city sewer. All those things, the infrastructure and the permitting that makes it really prohibitive in terms of time and cost and just know-how for people to build. If you bought something that had a manufactured home on it that you could theoretically, that you could live in short term, and then you could build on another site on your property, that would be ideal for us. So if you know any like 40-acre properties that have that out in Washougal, let us know.
But yes, to answer your question. So you have a lot of choices based in 3 different directions, basically.
Yeah. So, and then it would depend on price range, and do you want raw land or do you want an existing home on the land?
So we talked about mute your phones, rookies.
So we have all of our calendar notifications tied in.
Yeah. So we did we're doing a versus Seattle versus Vancouver, because just because you have so many people reach out to you who are considering a move south from Seattle into Vancouver, correct?
I'm sorry, I was reading that message. Say that again.
No, I'm just kind of catching people up who maybe just joined us. So we're doing like a somewhat of a versus Seattle versus Vancouver, because you have so many people who are looking to move or considering a move.
Yeah, and we want to connect with you guys too. So if you have questions, like definitely comment. So Joe said he wants to build a shipping container home. I'm also a prepper. Don't want to be in the city when shit hits the fan. Yeah, Washougal is where you're probably going to want to be, or you may even want to look out further into the gorge. We like Stevenson.
Yeah, how it depends, because when we initially looked at this area to move here, we were going to move way rural. Probably to the tune of an hour plus, meaning it would take an hour to get to Vancouver and Portland. So if that's something that you're okay with, then that opens up some other options for you even. Now, 3 years in, we love the access to Portland, and a lot of people are like, Portland, but no, we like the culture, we love the city.
But even the access to things that are going on in Vancouver.
And Vancouver, right? So, we changed a little bit, but if you want to be like super rural, like way out, then yeah, it opens up some options like Stevenson, what's next to Stevenson? Carson.
White Salmon, Snowden, that whole area, Klickitat County.
Right.
So like, if you want to be even farther out of the city, unless, and then this would be my second question to you, Joe, is what is your employment situation? Can you work from home? Because the further out you go, you're going to be on satellite internet. So a lot of my clients who do work remote, they need to have strong internet. You can get that in Washougal, not so much if you're out in Snowden. You're going to be on satellite internet. And then, or if you work in the city, how long of a commute do you want? So those are some other considerations. Like for us, we need to have access to do business and stuff like that, until we're like, I guess, truly financially independent. And,
What was the house we looked at that had the Jack Sparrow life-size statue?
That was in Snowden.
Guys, we looked at a house when we were looking to move and thinking super rural, and we found a house. It was a nice house. It was on a creek, if you remember, a stream.
Yeah.
5 acres at least, maybe more than that.
Yeah, I think it was more.
And it had a swimming pool. It was a real funky house, funky layout, floor plan. But these
they had a separate structure.
Yeah.
That had like a walkway from the second floor of the main house.
Like a poop deck. It was all like boat and maritime themed, but they literally had a life-size Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean statue overlooking the swimming pool. So I found some interesting stuff.
Joe said he works in architecture and can do a remotely fast internet as a must. So yeah, Washougal's probably going to be where you want to be, to be able to have that combination of rural living or battleground.
We need to do a spotlight on Battleground. We had started it, but we need to do a spotlight not only for us, but just to share with people who are looking for kind of what Nano Joe's looking for.
Yeah. The Grand Mug. Hello again. Hello. Heard you guys talk about prepping a few times. How did you get into that? Any good reads or docs to watch on the subject? Is there a big prepper community in Washington? There is a Facebook group called Washington State Preppers that I'm in. Are you in that group? So it's statewide and people meet up. I would say that on the range of doomsday preppers, so like what I would say the average American would think about preppers, like crazy conspiracy theory, like wacky people. I wouldn't say that there's a huge community like that, but I would also say that here in South. Wacky preppers? Okay, you disagree.
I don't think they're wacky. They're people who are like...
I'm saying what the average American would picture as what they, like, the stereotype of being a wacky prepper. I think most preppers are actually very level-headed.
Oh, yeah, they're smart. I mean, they're smart because they think ahead and they think worst case scenario, which to me, if anything, I don't know, like you have to be... No insults. But just to look at the world, to see what's happening financially with the economy, from an environmental standpoint, from food shortages, inventory... I mean, someone who's a wacky prepper, to me, they were right? So if it was someone who was predicting stuff, their predictions are coming true. So to answer your question, there are a lot. Matter of fact, I could prove it. Some of our favorite prepper channels, and I'll give you a couple, Grand Mug, where most of them located at.
They're located up here.
Which we found out after the fact. So I don't know how we came across it. For us, living in Southern California, it started to dawn on us, God forbid, if anything were to happen, there was a natural emergency, a terroristic situation. California is so up Schitt's Creek from a water standpoint, let alone ingress, egress. We were like, this probably isn't the place to be, being surrounded by 20 million people. Yeah. So that, in addition to wanting, 4 seasons, in addition to wanting less people, some space to spread out, a slower paced lifestyle, these are a lot of the reasons that drew us here. And we looked all over the country, we even looked internationally. But that's kind of how we started. I have a lot of favorite channels, but one of the biggest is a gentleman by the name of Wrangler Star. And he's super deep into prepping, and we learned a lot from Wrangler Star. I don't know if you're familiar with his channel, but he has.
And then Urban Prepper.
Urban.
He's up in Seattle.
Urban Prepper is really cool. I'm looking forward to meeting. I think his name's Cliff, so I have a feeling we'll meet someday. But he is a good one. But there's a lot of channels and people we follow that we've come to find out are in Washington. So
yeah, a book we've recommended too is Strategic Relocation. We've followed that book basically to decide where to look. So when you hear us talk about all the other states we considered, a lot of those were recommendations out of the strategic relocation book. And the author goes through all 50 states and talks about so many different factors between how friendly the municipalities are to building, the home that you might want, to homeschooling,
firearms, like the likeliness of there being a government, like if the government does ever decide to instill martial law or something like that, like how insulated are you?
And for us, like when COVID started, one of the things we were really concerned with in the mid-March before the lockdowns were announced was we were really concerned that they might close all the state's borders and not allow interstate travel for civilians. Again, it didn't happen, and it would be pretty extreme, but we just didn't know how far. Like if you look at New Zealand or Australia, they've gone very far in their COVID restrictions, and we just didn't know how far the U.S. would go. So like for us, when we were like, let's get over into Portland and get to Costco as soon as we can, it was a big concern for us. So things like that, are
so we're still in the scale. We're baby preppers, but we just do little things, right? We do things that most people should be doing. If you're going to buy one thing, buy three, so you have extras and you can start building inventory. Instead of, it's funny. Just this past weekend, we bought some things that we had been putting off. For example, a solo stove, which is the ability. It's like a camp stove, but it burns pretty much anything. Very little smoke. So it's a way to, worst case scenario, keep warm, make sure you don't freeze to death. Best case scenario, it's just a really nice camp stove, pit fire, way to cook even. So again, that's kind of the things that we're doing as we work our way into land and being totally kind of off the grid and independent.
Yeah. So one of I think they said, how did you get into that? So we started by buying I don't know, on the West Coast there's something called Winco, and we used to shop there. It's a grocery store that has like a bulk section, and so we would buy rice and beans in bulk, and I learned how to cook dry beans because I didn't know how to cook dry beans before we got into prepping.
And then also along the lines of that is learning how to store stuff, right? So one of the aspects of prepping is having food and provisions set aside for when shit hits the fan. So learning how to bag things up in Mylar and put it in airtight. I mean, those are all things that at least in my community nobody teaches yet. Maybe that's something that we should endeavor upon, because for me it gives me a huge sense of confidence and peace of mind knowing that you go to the store, more and more I'm hearing about inventory shortages or empty shelves
again since COVID. It was during COVID, the supply chain recovered a little bit, but you're starting to see some other shortages.
Right. So for me, just peace of mind, right? And I talk to my family about this stuff all the time. Like, do you have a way to make clean water? You know what I mean? Just recently, where I'm from in Philadelphia, we had a huge flood. I mean, literally, one of the main arteries was filled up with water.
You have a picture?
Probably do.
Or I guess I could pull it up on the
thing. You can probably pull up easier. So
yeah, we could talk your ears off about that.
And there's still so much more that we have to go, but we're learning and we're open-minded, and we see the writing on the wall to at least have these things set aside for peace of mind. And
you will see, like out in Washougal, you'll see elements of people having preparedness provisions in their home. So like some houses are on well and septic, so you're not tied into the to like the city and county's infrastructure, so you're self-sufficient in that way. Not so much propane. I don't see that as much out here.
You don't?
No, not like some of the houses we looked at in California where they have the big propane tanks, and that's the main.
Well, see here, because you have more land around your house. Like, I wouldn't have my propane in plain sight.
Right.
So probably a lot of properties we drive by on the street, you wouldn't know what they had anyway.
Yeah.
And I probably would even bury our tanks.
Yeah, so I see more electric-only houses than houses that have propane. Where they just don't have natural gas. They don't have any gas supply, which also means electric cooktop, which some people don't like, which I don't know. Unless you're cooking on a wok, I don't really understand that. Okay, let's go back to the subject unless you have other questions and comments.
If you guys are wondering just general topics, we'll try to answer them here to the best of our ability. You always get a truthful, honest answer from us. As a perspective of a licensed real estate broker and agent, who's in and out of houses every day, from a sales and investing standpoint, and then just from us in general as a regular family who's moved here fairly recently, and is learning the area and is learning a lot about the area.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about rent, we talked about housing prices. I think that's all we're going to talk about when it comes to housing. We're not trying to shove the housing market down your throat either. Let's talk job market, Seattle versus Vancouver. And this was really interesting because we have slightly higher unemployment and maybe predicted less job growth. But when I look at the job growth over the last 3 and 5 years, we're outpacing Seattle in terms of job growth percentage. Now, I think a lot of people probably live in Seattle or the Bay Area because of the tech industry, because of the availability of jobs, and as we move possibly to permanent remote work and people can live where they want, not everyone wants to live in a big city or pay the big tax, because I mean, you could have your whatever cushy tech job and you could pay $850 in Seattle for your home, or you could pay $500,000 here, get more home than $850 there,
and a quarter of the population.
Right, and the overall cost of living is cheaper.
Absolutely, and you still have access to Portland. So if you like that big city vibe that I would assume you get from Seattle, you could probably replicate that to a large extent in Portland.
Yeah,
right?
We always would rather live in Southwest Washington, go to the city. Oops,
No,
sorry. You got a big old phone there.
Don't be a hater.
Go to the city. Can you show off this craziness? Look what he's holding. No, turn it around so they can see you.
Can I see myself?
Oh yeah, I will show you yourself so you can see. You're right there.
Oh yeah.
Somebody got the Fold.
Samsung Fold. So I'm enjoying it. Definitely. But you were saying you were talking about.
I'd rather. Even when we were looking in the Seattle area, when we first decided to relocate, we were looking on the outskirts, kind of. We looked at Issaquah. We looked as north as Bellingham. We looked at Ellensburg, which isn't really a suburb of Seattle, but we tried to find, okay, like what's going to have access to what we need and how far away can we go while still getting that. And that's the beautiful thing I think about the Vancouver area, is that you have a whole river as a barrier. And it's funny because Portland people act like when you live in Vancouver, like you're an hour away. Like they think it's the farthest away thing to cross the bridge.
But I mean,
it's
really like that for Vancouver folks too. So we have a lot of friends, and we literally live 10 minutes from Portland, right? But we have a lot of friends and neighbors, and we say, hey, do you go into Portland often? And they act like we're talking about, do you drive up to? I mean, I feel like more of them go to Seattle more often than the idea of going into Portland.
Yeah.
Which is I find interesting. Again, we personally love the diversity and the variety.
And we don't mind all the things that people don't like about Portland.
Right. And I think
if you lived in Portland, maybe you'd feel differently. But as a visitor of Portland, nothing that you see in the news or that people complain about bothers us.
Right. I won't say nothing. Most of it doesn't.
Like what?
I don't know. I mean, something bothers me about everything, right? It just it depends to what extent and what it is.
Okay, but so the main thing you see in the media is Portland's on fire, anarchists, protests, homelessness. That doesn't really affect our enjoyment of Portland.
Okay, right.
So that's what I meant. The Grand Mug says, got it. Thanks for the detailed response. Makes a lot of sense given the current climate. We'll definitely check out those resources you mentioned. Happy to share.
Good stuff. So job market, housing.
The other thing we're supposed to talk about, I'm going to go to that, which is cost of living, because this is a big one.
I got to get up for a quick sec.
Okay. And we'll probably be wrapping up soon. We've been on now for 46 minutes. Gosh, the time flies when you're live.
Flies when you have no audio, too.
Okay, so cost of living, 100... Again, if you've watched our videos, you've heard us reference this, but this is just a direct comparison for this video. So you have 100 being the average for the United States. So if you're seeing those hundreds for United States, that means it's the complete average of the whole country. So above it would be higher than average, below it would be lower than average. So we are definitely not a low cost of living area. If you are into the FIRE movement, financially independent, retire early, a lot of people will look to live in low cost of living areas. This is not one of them. I would say for the West Coast, it's probably one of the lower cost of living areas, given that our cost of living index is 114 compared to 172 in Seattle. Our groceries are right on par with average in the United States. Seattle, you're going to spend more money. Healthcare is the one area that we are slightly more expensive than Seattle, but again, lower than average in the United States for this area. Housing, slightly higher. And again, if this is going based off this 317 number, that number is super outdated. I'd be curious to see what the average price of a house is in the United States total, because the whole market has run up. So if I know that the Seattle number is out of date and I know the Vancouver number is out of date, the US average of 230 is probably out of date too. Utilities. Our utilities are very inexpensive. We have more than half of our electric comes from hydropower through the Bonneville Dam and the Columbia River. So literally the river that is flowing through is providing us electricity, which is a very clean source of electricity too. So not only is our electric low, like I feel like as a Southern Californian growing up, I feel like I'm cheating, because in the summer you run your AC pretty much 24 hours a day, which costs hundreds of dollars a month in the summer.
Right.
And here, and the rates are crazy high. So not only are our rates super cheap, but we don't even run our AC most of the time. We run our AC maybe 4 or 5 times. We're running it now because we closed the windows at our office condo that we're at now. It's in the flight path. It's on the river, so the views are insane. But there's also a lot of airport.
What is it? What is it called?
Airport. Are you on camera?
Airport night.
Stop it.
No, man, that's fine.
Airport noise.
Airport noise.
So that's a trade-off.
Yes.
Okay, so we were talking about utilities. So electric's cheaper. Natural gas, I would say, is reasonable in the summer. We probably pay. Our bills are on auto pay. I haven't looked this summer what we're paying for gas.
Yeah.
Probably
going the other.
$10 to $20.
And not to cut you off, but going the other way. So you talked about the heat, because you're from California. So for you, air conditioning was obviously a huge thing.
And same with my clients from Florida.
Right.
Like the electrician
Yeah, like you
from
can't
Florida.
live in Florida without air conditioner.
And then my clients who are moving up from New Orleans.
Right. Same thing in New Orleans. Super humid.
That was a requirement for them. They're the ones that bought the $370,000 house. So well under market value. I won't say what it appraised at, but it was tens of thousands higher than what they paid. And that was one of their requirements, was having a yard, and AC was a big one, which not all houses here have AC.
Right.
So what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, and going the other way, if you guys are in a northern or mid country climate, the winters typically presented another set of challenges. Because for me, growing up in Philadelphia and having rental properties and stuff like that, as soon as you turn that corner after Halloween, it was time to fire up that heater. And for us, going down below freezing and stuff like that, I remember literally having gas bills, for the furnace that were approaching $1,000 some months. So from November, December, January, I mean, you couldn't wait for spring to get there fast enough. So again, we're not trying to sugarcoat it like this is, but it's a pretty great mix of all worlds, because you don't
get the seasons without the extremity.
Without the extremities, so pretty cool.
And so I talked about our natural gas bill in the summer being probably $15 to $20. In the winter, it's probably around $100. And I don't know. I'm pretty frugal. I was raised by boomer parents.
Hey, boomer.
And so, the sensibilities. I guess what would my grandparents have been like? Silent generation.
Who?
My grandparents.
What's generation?
Silent generation. Like the one before boomers.
Silent? I never heard of that.
Anyway, so the sensibility of my mom used to say all the time, use it up, make it count, make it do or do without. So that sensibility of just being very frugal has definitely passed on to me. So we don't when I say $100, if you like your house warm and toasty, you're probably going to look at probably high hundreds to $200. We keep our house relatively cold. We're like, it's winter, you should be cold. We'll wear a blanket or turn on the fireplace or bundle up. Like, that's us in our house. So just giving full context.
I'll probably keep it colder than you would want, right?
Yes. And you like the windows open in the winter.
I like fresh air. I like air movement and fresh air. But I also like chilling under, like layering or heated blanket, whatever.
You know, one of the best things we bought last year was a heated mattress cover. Yeah. So it goes under your sheets, and it was dual zone. So when you get in bed, your sheets are warm. So nice. And heat rises, so that heat is constantly being radiated through your body. Yeah, it was great. Did we cover everything we wanted to? Do you guys have any questions before we hop off? So we talked about Clark County's growth. Oh, why not wait? So people are... Oh, can we turn this down, the music down just a second? It's a little distracting for me. Sorry about that. So based on some of this data, so we talked about cost of living, housing compared to Seattle, the job market, weather. We're slightly warmer in the summer. Supposedly we get 4 inches more of rain. I don't know, because I think Seattle's probably more overcast, so I don't 100% trust those numbers. Because they're a lot closer to the ocean, actually, to the water. So in the Puget Sound. The Puget Sound. Oh, so why you might not want to wait. So I have a lot of people who reach out to me that say we're 2 years out, 3 years out. I've had as many as people say that we're 5 years out from moving. And for some people, like one of my clients who's moving from Arizona, shout out to you. You know who you are. They are. Don't know them? No, you don't know them, but they're looking for land. Okay. And she's an architect, and they're gonna build a. There's a lot of architects that. Yeah. Are there that many architects in the world, or is there something about architects looking at Washington for some reason? Yeah, because I had a client last month that closed who was an architect, and then Joe's an architect, and this lady in Arizona's an architect. Interesting. Or maybe they're just attracted to us because of my nerdy stats that I share. That could be another reason. All the details. I was bringing that up to say, what was I talking about? Why not wait? Oh, so they're... So people who are looking at some point in their journey considering moving. Yeah, so her husband is a firefighter, so he can't necessarily just relocate because his pension's going to kick in a couple years. Mm-hmm. And, that firefighter pension ain't nothing to play with. So that's what they're waiting for. So some people have that situation, but if you can relocate earlier, if you could do a job transfer, or, if you're not waiting on receiving a retirement pension or something like that, I would recommend considering moving up your date, because we're growing by 4,900 people a year, according to this Columbian article, and you can see it says we have 7,000 residential units in development, but I would take that to mean not single family homes. I would take that to mean townhouses, apartments, right. All housing. So if you can speed up your move and kind of get ahead, especially while interest rates are low, we don't expect them to stay this low for so long. I see the comments coming in. We'll come back and read them in just a second. Interest rates are probably going to go up. And because of, and I talked to a lot of clients about this, so I'm sharing it with the YouTube community because I don't know if I've said this here, but I don't think that when the housing market drops, which eventually there will be some sort of either price stagnation or correction, or maybe a full-blown drop in recession, but I think that other areas in the country will drop more because we have 4,900 people moving here, and this isn't with full COVID stats, which is like post work from home, like revolution or remote work revolution, whatever you want to call it, post COVID. I think that those numbers will go up as people get moved to permanent remote. Mm-hmm. Because those numbers are going to go up for a lot of reasons, not the least of which, mm-hmm. I think last week and then more recently we posted a video about climate change and right. Climate migrations. And again, just this past weekend or past week, where I'm from in Philadelphia, I mean, the city was largely flooded out. My mom actually lost a car, which was totaled, and we saw what happened in New York. I mean, pictures of water gushing through people's basement apartments, and
I don't think that's an aberration. Like these are things that are going to have people looking more and more like, okay, where can I move that offers me X, Y, and Z?
Right.
So besides all of those other reasons, I don't think that as from an investor standpoint, as much as I wanted to slow down, right, to give me a better buying opportunity, I just don't think it is. That makes this area offers so many different things, plus what I just shared.
Yeah. So we have a lack of supply. We don't have enough housing. If you ever tune into the Vancouver City Council meetings, you will hear them talk about there is a shortage of housing, all housing, affordable housing especially, but all housing units in Vancouver. There's a shortage of housing. So from a supply and demand standpoint, yes, there's cycles and the market's going to do what it does, but I just don't know how much it's going to drop in price. It will probably significantly drop in competition. I've gotten 5 clients under contract at or below list price in the last month. So we're seeing still a median days on market of 5 days. We're still seeing some homes go more than 10% over asking. Average is about 3%, but it depends on how competitive the house is. So we're seeing more houses going at list price though, and more houses staying on the market longer, even though the median is there. So if it's a hot house, it's still going to be gone within 5 days. But previously, like months ago, it was like everything's going fast, and now it's like really the hot houses. So might be seasonal with the end of summer, but it's definitely softening. It's getting a little bit easier. So if you were thinking about buying, especially if you sold over the summer, I mean, the best thing you could probably do is sell in the summer, buy in the winter. If you can time it like that, get a short-term rental in the meantime, either in your existing place or here. What are you laughing at me for?
This realtor talk always tickles me. So, as a regular person, a civilian,
yes,
I don't think that's how most people operate. So, the reasons not to wait, from my standpoint, would be, again, you laid out. I'm teasing you. You laid out all of the business reasons, all of the buying reasons, selling reasons. But one of the big things in our family is our mantra is freedom, fulfillment, and happiness.
Yeah.
Right? Freedom, fulfillment, happiness. And it sounds corny, but that's kind of the mantra we live by. And this area, and you've probably heard me say it before if you've been hanging out with us for a while, looking at different videos, but this area offers the most unique, the most comprehensive blend mix of freedom, fulfillment, and happiness as I've ever seen. And again, it's not perfect. So you have people in the comments say, "Oh, it's nothing like it used to be," and you're probably right. I can only tell you what I know from my experience and perspective. But the time we spent up here now, going on 3.5 years, it offers some things that I couldn't have anticipated when we were even thinking about moving.
So from a logical standpoint and an emotional
standpoint. So my wife, she's what we call an urchin, like super detail oriented. She'll tell you all the numbers, facts, and figures.
Yeah.
You can rest assured she'll give you the all of the accuracies. But again, from an I don't want to say emotional standpoint,
like a fulfillment
standpoint, there's some other reasons not to wait, right? Like why put off? I know me personally, when I used to live, and this is no big dig at Philadelphia, but I got to the point where anytime I would travel and I'd come back home from, to Philadelphia, there was like a piece of me that was like, man, shit, I don't want to come back home, which is normally an odd thing. So that was my way of knowing it's probably time to move on and enter the next phase of the journey. So for us being here, I mean, it's just like every day, every month presents some new things that we find just very, very fulfilling.
So I'm going to read the comments. Nicole says, "Hello, guys."
Hey, Nicole.
Hello. I missed it. Yeah, watch the replay. It'll be up.
Yep.
Joe says, "The winter here sucks in Minnesota. Washington attracts me due to the gorgeous weather and no state income tax." Yes, that's
Amen.
a big one.
Amen.
Tyler says, "I don't know if this is the right place to ask, but I'm trying to choose between moving to Kirkland or Vancouver from West Palm Beach, Florida. What community is better for a person of color?" This is difficult for me to answer in a realtor context.
Take off your realtor hat.
Because wait. Because I have because I have fair housing laws that are in place to protect people of color, really any sort of class of people that are discriminated against. I'm not super familiar with Kirkland, Washington, But I would say that I've had a great experience here in terms of people being open and friendly. It's not the most diverse place in the country. There's no secrets about that. You can look at the census data. But that being said, the people here have been great. That's what I'll say. What will you say as a
and I apologize. I'm not super versed on Kirkland, but like Hal said, just being here, being a black man, unapologetically black, and that kind of thing, it's been pretty good, right? I mean, I've experienced racism. We had a whole video actually to this subject called "Being Black in the Evergreen State." You should check it out, Tyler, if you haven't already. Maybe you could put a link in or something like that. But we did a whole deep dive on the subject. So whether it's Philadelphia or Georgia or Southern California, we all run into situations and incidents. But here has been still going. We did this video 6 months ago now, right?
Yeah.
So it's been pretty good. Not perfect, but all things considered, it's been pretty good. And you'll hear things in the news kind of polarizing, and you got Antifa going at it with the Proud Boys and all that stuff, and I mean, there's situations everywhere, but by and large, it's been more than acceptable, right? So.
And I would probably reach out to, if you can, like someone of color in Kirkland and get their experience.
Maybe we can meet somebody in Kirkland.
Maybe we can. The difficult thing, though, is that I can tell you all day about my personal experience, but you could come here and, I don't know what ethnicity you are, but, you could live next to the most bigoted person, and your experience is going to be vastly different than ours, having great neighbors the entire time that we've lived here. Or, like, your lifestyle plays a part in it, your interactions, how much you have to be out and exposed to other people in a way. Like, we can really pick and choose when we're homebodies, so we can pick and choose when we're exposed to other people, and I think that has a big factor in it. And that being said, there's systemic racism everywhere in America, so I don't know how much you can escape it, but yeah, that's what I have to say on that. Lazar says the 3 F's, and he says, or 2 F's and an H.
Absolutely.
Freedom, fulfillment, and happiness. Yep.
Where does it live by?
I think that's all we have for you. Any last questions? I will give you 20 seconds to type it in before we hop off.
Yeah, and if you guys don't mind, be kind enough to just type in maybe some subjects that you would like covered, right? Whether it's in a live video like this or one of our what we call talking head videos.
Yep.
Let us know what subjects you'd like to see covered. Any other verses, so Seattle versus Vancouver. That gives us a lot of help and guidance in kind of what people are thinking about. So we try to put up content like based off of what we were thinking about, but obviously there's no way we can be in everyone's minds or kind of answer your questions. So. And
we put up content that's relevant to you. Like me putting out a video about market stats for the month of September isn't really that helpful if you're just considering moving. Like, it's just not. So and
there's plenty of sources. I always tease my wife because I'm like, there's plenty of traditional realtor-y stuff. Again, we want to give you guys things that are a little bit more substantial and deeper than that, and hopefully you can appreciate it.
Tyler says, thanks guys, awesome. Joe says, do more of these live streams. We'll do. We are going to be live every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, which is what, 1 p.m. Eastern? No, 2 p.m. Eastern. Every Tuesday, 11 a.m. And then we'll be putting up videos probably on like Friday or Saturday. We know that there's not enough content out over the weekend, so we want to do that. This week we'll be putting out a video on Prune Hill, so if you're interested in Camas, this is a particular area in Camas that we covered. We bought a drone, not a drone, what do you call it? A gimbal. And we took some new car footage, so we're trying to give you guys better content. More to do. Mom! Look, my mom's on. Use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without.
Hey, you say that.
Yes.
Now, what does that mean exactly? Tell.
Well, it basically means, like, use everything that you have available to you, wear it out, which he takes such good care of his stuff that, sorry for the delay in signing in. I'm just surprised and happy that you're here. Wear it out. So I don't know, things are meant to be used. He takes really good care of his stuff. I'm hard on everything. I'm like, it's a material thing. It can be used, and replaced.
I think my dad is old enough from a generation where it's like I didn't get a new pair of shoes until you could damn near see the soles of my feet. So it got to the point where I took care of it. And then even like in us and our other businesses, like, you know, we have a reselling business. So literally everything you see right now pictured, the hat, the shirt, the mug, literally came from Goodwill or yard sale or something like that. So we definitely embrace the concept of use it up and repurposing and stuff like that. So
make it do would mean like figure out how to fix it. Like I was trying to fix we have one of those the perfect tear paper towel holders, and it got loose, and so I googled yesterday how to fix it so it's steady again.
Did it work?
No, the lady was like, you need to do an X-Acto knife and cut it, and then you have to screw the internal screw back in.
So cut the thing around the base?
Yeah.
Okay, you can do that.
And then do without. Like you can't, which goes into kind of a prepping mindset. Like I don't take for granted that we can just go to the store and replace things. Even when we did a grocery shop over the weekend, and I was looking around at all the abundance of produce, and I was buying all this stuff, and I'm like, wow, there's so much produce here, like an abundance. Like it felt like I was in this magical garden in the produce section of the store, and I was like, this isn't guaranteed. Like may not always be accessible.
Yeah.
You know, this amount of selection and freshness and anything you could probably want. Joe says, do more of these live streams. Cover Bitcoin and Monero, please. Wow, that's really interesting you say that, because
we're just starting our journey.
Yes, we're going to be making some investments
into crypto and those kind of things. So we're in some ways we feel a little bit behind.
Yeah.
And then other ways where we're like really excited to, you know, because you can't go back in time, right? So we're at where we're at. We're all on a journey. So we'll definitely be, I don't know if we'll cover it here per se, but maybe we'll talk about that some more, Joe. Yeah,
Joe, text me here. We're actually signing up for a course this week. Like the registration ends tomorrow for all crypto. So if you want me to share that with you, I won't put it out here, but if you want me to share it with you, just text me and I'll share it with you. And you can go through the course with us. It's a live 2-week course that starts on the 12th, but registration ends either today or tomorrow.
I think today.
So that's all we have for you guys. Thank you for being here. We appreciate your support. Give this video a like if you haven't done so already. It really helps get our content out to more people. And if you're watching this, the recorded version, please, again, comment. You know, you take personally all the comments that come through. You answer them, and then give us some suggestions and ideas for future videos. And then also go back in the library and watch. We try to cover a variety of subjects and topics, stuff that you may not hear other places. So check that out. Please subscribe to the channel. Yes. We're excited because I think since last week we hit 1,000 subscribers, or was that last week too? It was last week we hit it. But we're very happy that you all are here. Yes. Lazar says Ethereum ADA. Which one is that? ADA is Sedano? No. Yeah, you can tell we're still learning. XRP and DOT, which I do know is Polkadot. Polkadot. Good luck. Thank you, Lazar. Thank you. Thank you very much. We're excited. So each one teach one. Yeah. All right. Bye, guys. See you, Mom.